Hello, it's quite a chilly winter's day. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how you can encourage wildlife into your garden, and particularly by making a compost heap. Compost is a fantastic place for wildlife. They're really good for gardening, of course, but they're really good for the small things that help to keep your garden healthy. All the tiny insects and other invertebrates. And that's because you're providing them with loads of food in the form of decaying organic matter, which lots of things are going to feed on. And that includes things like woodlice, it includes things like springtails, tiny springtails, collembolan. It includes lots of other insects as well. And of course, when you've got all of these other invertebrates, you'll get things feeding on them as well. So larger invertebrates, things like centipedes, are in abundance in my compost heap, but also things like birds will forage in them as well. So I quite often see blackbirds feeding on the top of my compost heap. And what they're doing is they're really putting apart the surface and trying to find smaller insects and other invertebrates living just below the surface. They're also really good in the winter because, of course, as things decompose, they heat up a little bit. And that means you can keep insects and other invertebrates active, even in the coldest months. And there are a few general rules for making a compost heap. It's quite simple, really. Don't put on things which are going to encourage rats, so don't put on meat or anything that's been cooked. But as long as you stick to stuff which is raw, you're probably okay. And you also want to have a roughly 50-50 ratio between things which are carbon rich, which might be hedge cuttings or might be things like newspaper, kitchen roll or cardboard, and things which are nitrogen rich, and that means kind of grass clippings or kitchen scraps, other kitchen scraps. If you roughly have a 50-50 mix of those and you mix them up well, cut them into small enough bits, what you'll get is a really active compost heap that will decompose quickly and won't make any smell, and it'll be a fantastic place for lots and lots of insects. So you can see, I'm going to pan out, you can see my compost heap here. So I've got two sections to it. On one side it's the relatively fresher stuff, you can see it's still green, and notice all the bits of kitchen roll I have in mind. So I use kitchen roll really as being kind of lots of my carbon rich material. And then on the other side here you can see what it's growing into. It's gradually decomposing down. And I've had a bit of a look just now, and I've found lots of insects and other invertebrates in there. I've taken some photos of them so I can show you my 4 compost creatures that you can also try and have a look for. But if we have a little look in, again, this is quite fun to do. You can sort of dig around and find stuff, and really quickly, I don't know if you can see this, but as I'm doing this, I can see things like springtails moving on the surface as I'm digging down. And there's certainly, I'm just jumping around there. There's certainly lots of life in there. There's loads and loads of worms. So lots and lots of food for all the rest of my garden as well. So I'd encourage you to get out, make a compost heap if you haven't got one already. If you've got one, have a dig in it and see if you can find 4 compost creatures as well.